Everybody, welcome back to the Beehooligans Be Smart podcast. We got a fun group today. We got most of our folks back. We got a bunch of folks that's excited and chipper, and they're talking amongst themselves in the background. Especially Debbie. Debbie, you just have got a lot of energy happening over there. So we're going to introduce Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, how are you doing?
What are you doing this morning?
Drinking coffee.
Coffee's a good thing. I can't not have my coffee in the morning. What you been up to?
Working.
Just working. I know the feel. Everybody got to work. Everybody got to work.
Yep. Been doing a lot of work.
Down yonder in Bellevue, Nebraska, is my new bee, my main home bee down here, my main apprentice and helper and everything else.
Okay.
Antnee G!
I have not been called home bee before. I kind of like that.
Yeah, you my home bee.
That racist. Wait, not if I say it right. Hey, you keep referring to down south.
You south of Omaha. You're south of South Omaha, so yes, you are down south.
Yes, but we've got, Yapster. We've got Lady Kakalaki, Lady North Kakalaki.
Oh, my.
I'm not
south of me. I'm surprised you don't, every time you don't log on, I don't hear the theme song from, one of them old Southern movies. The banjo twanging and all that.
Yeah, I really like the Dukes of Hazzard.
There you go.
Right. Put some
what
Charlie.
Are you doing? What do you got? You been playing with bees lately?
I'm good. Not yet. We went out last week, did that complete inspection.
Right.
That went well. So, in learning to be patient, this week I'll go out and do the other hive. Okay. This way I break it up, as far as giving the bees more time to do what they're going to do in correct situations.
Plus, I think it's nice that you alternate, because that way, instead of wearing one hive out and getting in there too frequently, you can still go out every week and check a hive without having to expose the same ones every time. You kind of spread it out. Spread the love.
I kind of like that. Yeah, absolutely.
And then our firefighting, our active firefighting, because Antnees are retired, and believe me, he stresses the retired every time he says it, firefighter. But our active firefighter is old Yapster down there, the Yappy beekeeping man, over in, well, as Antnee says, it's much more south than him. So, what's happening, Yap? What happened, Yap?
Hello.
There he is.
Hi.
I can hear dueling banjos as you speak.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here today with you guys. I think my wife has put some go to sleep pills in my vape or something. I don't know. And I'm
it's the
sort of
wrong
like,
kind of vape, maybe.
Man, I'm good.
Well, you've been busy with firefighter work, or you've been busy with bees? Which you've been spending more time on?
Yes and yes and yes.
All of it.
I'm actually, I'm at the fire hall today, so all you lovely podcast listeners out there will probably hear some background noise of our my radio traffic going on every once in a while. I ended up, did I bring up in one of the podcasts about I pulled the Nycot queen-rearing system back out of the box?
You mentioned it.
Okay.
Not to any extent, but.
Okay, I have. I pulled the NICOT system out and went through the process. I actually got. I don't know. I still don't know why the queen ain't getting all too crazy about laying eggs in it yet. But I'm working on that. I got 5. I ended up. I pulled 5 of my little cups out, or I guess little plastic cups that had eggs in them, and set those on the cell bar. Believe it or not, I got 3. One of them fell out of the little holder, so I messed that one up. So of 4 cells that I set, or cups that I set, I got 3 of them to take. So I'm 3 for 4. They're just a few days out from being capped off, and I've got the incubator ready and waiting, and things are going good so far. So I'm tickled pink about my little first introductory queen making with a NICOT system. So yay for Yappy.
Yay, Yappy. And it's interesting that you mention that, because we have a guest today, and this guy is like, he's the bee man. He knows this stuff. He's in Iowa, state of Iowa, beekeeping inspector. His name is Andy Joseph. A lot of times you see him online in different groups. His full name Andrew, so he has his preference. I've always known him by Andy. But hey, Andy, let's say hi.
Good morning. Good morning. They're building me up a little bit too much, but glad to be here.
Dude, you are a living legend in Iowa. Probably because people don't get to see you as often as they'd like. You're more mysterious. Everybody said, "Did you see it?" There you went. He was here an hour ago.
Yeah, the life of inspector. It's a lot of road time, a lot of dashboard and arm out the window. Almost more than that than actual bee work sometimes.
Oh my, that's sad.
We've got an inspector like you here in North Carolina. Very much sought after and very busy. Yep.
So, Andy, you just heard Yappy over there with his bees. Are you familiar? Do you do a lot with the NICOT system with queen rearing? Have you done anything with it?
I'm sorry, we're breaking up here. All of a sudden, it all sounded good until you started asking me a question.
No worries. Hey, that's the great place that the internet is, and especially Skype. No, I was just saying, Yappy was talking about playing with the NICOT queen rearing system. Did you have any thoughts on that? You got any experience that we might be able to enlighten this young man with?
I do a little queen breeding. Probably queen rearing is a better word. I don't know how much of a breeder I am. I've never used a NICOT system. I know it's around. Actually, the president of the Iowa honey producers, Roy, he likes it a lot. He's used it for years. I just do more of a standard grafting sort of method. Just pull those little young larvae out and stick them into a cell bar and off they go. But I'm all for rearing your own queens. I don't think you can do better than that, just regardless of your scale, little or big. If you got a few hives and you've got one through winter and they seem like they're healthy, go for it. If they're healthy, productive, gentle, that's that.
See, I like to hear that, because to me, local bees are always the best bees you can get.
So
I definitely agree.
Yeah, they're pushing that here in North Carolina too. Grow your own bees, grow your own queens, local.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that, every year, we have all these issues with supersedure, and you hear, even this year it was big with packages. What's easier to get a hive started with than throwing a package into a hive and, putting some food on there. But there was so much supersedure. And, I'm really starting to wonder if some of it isn't the producer's fault at all. It's the shipping and the transition between California or Georgia or wherever you're getting them from. And by the time they get out here to Iowa, especially for individual queens going through the mail, that's rough on them. And I just have a feeling we're going to start hearing that's part of our queen problem. So, for that reason alone, if you can get them locally, if you can get them young, if they haven't been caged for very long, they haven't gone through shipping, it just seems to me you're a step ahead.
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of it, for me anyway, is Part of it is because I like to because I do a lot of cutouts and swarm captures and all that, especially the cutouts and live bee removals, structural removals. For me, it's all about conservation. I want to get those locally adapted. I'm the guy that starts slavering when I see somebody says, oh yeah, they've been there for like 2 years, 3 years. And I'm like, yes, I want them, because they're good locally adapted to genetics. Nobody's been manipulating or adding anything. We know they've adapted successfully because they're still here. At least we pretty well hope so. So for me, it's a matter of protecting and perpetuating those kind of genetics. That's why I like to rear queens off of that. But also for me, I always tell people, because I'm very much on the hobby side, I'm always trying to encourage people to make it as personal as possible. To get to know each colony as well as you can individually. When you get to know a particular line of a colony of genetics, you get to know the personality, so to speak, of that colony, that hive. And that kind of helps build that, I call it a relationship or whatever you want, but once you get to know it, and then you start breeding daughter queens off of that and you can split them up, you kind of, it just builds more of, an interaction. You get, to me, you're closer, so to speak, to your hives. I think it makes for a more interesting and, a better, beekeeping experience when you can kind of track all that kind of stuff and being that involved with your colonies, with your hives.
Yeah, I'll buy that for sure. That sounds real good.
I got something kind of strange going on in one of my hives with one of my queens. I noticed that my bees were trying to, it looked to me like they were trying to supersede her. But then I would go back in and I'd check, and the cells are torn down. The old queen's still there. And I got to looking at her, and I noticed she was moving a little funny, and I noticed that she has one leg that's lame. It's the middle leg. And I'm thinking maybe that's why, but she's still going strong. She's still laying a lot of eggs, and seems like she's doing good. I guess but she's a queen from a swarm I caught last April. So last April as in 2016. So she's got some age on her. There's no telling how old she was when I got her. So I don't know.
Putting peer pressure on her. Say, look, keep it up, queen, or we'll do it. Just like that.
Pick up the pace. Yeah, I don't know. Remember, we got the power. I don't know. But she's still in there. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude. What is that intense stare?
What, to me?
No.
What, me?
Yappy's over there got this killer stare going. I don't know what.
I can't see Yappy.
You're almost lucky.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm sorry, I didn't brush my hair and put my makeup on. Like
there he is. There he is. I can't see. Is it Eric? Is that his name?
Andy.
Are you talking about me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just on a microphone right now to improve the connection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Figured I better avoid video.
No worries. It's all right. It's talking to you the whole point, because the audience can't see us. We're the only ones that can see us anyway. We're just teasing the audience because now we can talk about stuff they can't see. And you can't see us. They're probably saying, yeah, we've seen pictures of you before, but we don't want to see you.
Fair enough.
I'm used to it. What can I say? Got something to say?
Well, let me throw this in there. The thought process, we were talking about the whole queen supersedure thing. I go down, I look at nature in a way that may be a little bit different. There's a thing where up north they've got a lot of deer, and there's deer relocation programs. I've not heard a lot of it, but they will take wildlife from up north, bring it down south. I don't know that we transfer too much wildlife up north, but good friend of mine that's up in West Virginia, he actually looked on a study, and they were talking about where they took southern bees, and when they took them up north, they did not fare well. And the test was, I think they had 100 packages that they pulled from down south and 100 packages of northern bees, and they put them all out in the same yard, and are in the same environment of things, and they had major losses with the packages that came from the South. And the determination was that they were not accustomed to the climate differences between South and North. I can kind of understand that, but I think nature has its ways of taking care of themselves. So I don't know much about the study, so I'm really kind of throwing that out there, but I really can't comment much on it. But if that has some relevance to it, and you guys are up in Iowa, where most of your queens, and this is what's crazy, there are package producers that produce their own queens, and there's also package producers that buy a lot of queens. And if you think about this, your early production queens are coming from the South. That's where they've got to get them because of the drone population. So if you're getting, hypothetically, maybe some out of Florida, Georgia is a very large queen producing state. I know 2 large producers just right off the top of my head. Well, package producer goes and he orders, let's say, 100 queens. He mixes up 100 packages, puts them on pallets, they get shipped, and they do go across country, go to different places. Well, if they make their way up north, and you've got that southern genetic of that queen, they get there, and the seasonal flow differences, the temperature differences, and so many things, there may be something to that in regards to why you guys are having issues with with your problems with your hives up there, because of where most of these packages are coming out of anyway.
That could be possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a good theory. I would think it would also really, if it's going to affect anything, I would maybe assume winter would be a big deal. You know, if they're coming out of southern reared bees that haven't really been bred or tested through colder winters, maybe that would have an effect. But through that first season, I don't know. Maybe there's even something there that's possible. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's just I'm not the scientific guy. Just ask Randy Oliver. But at the end of the day, you know, there's small little studies that have been done to a degree to kind of put reference to that out there. That's kind of why I'm throwing that in.
Uh-oh. Look at Schawee. Schawee, what's happening, bud?
Up.
We are recording. We got Mr. Andy Joseph, Iowa State Beekeeping Inspector, on. We got Yap and Antnee and Debbie and you and me now, bud. Glad you could pop in.
Sorry I'm a little late, but I had a busy night last night with a removal and had a flat tire. And I had to go care that this morning.
That's no fun. Hey, Yap, I was reading, because you know me and reading, and I talked to a couple guys about the whole bee thing, and I bet you Schawee will have some pretty interesting input on this too. But I know Clarence Collison has written a couple of articles on this, and one of the guys that's a commercial producer, he goes down to Texas and California, and then he moves up and does nuke production in Northern California before he comes back here to sell nukes. One of the things that I've seen both this guy and Clarence talk about is because of the growth at such extreme distances, like from, you know, here in Nebraska and Iowa to California, that things that are in bloom that bees are foraging on, bees tend to focus, they get very single-minded on certain things that are blooming at a time, that when they close them all up and you move them, you know, rapidly somewhere else, the first thing they come out looking for is what the last thing they had been primarily foraging on. If that's not in bloom, they kind of have to do a hard reset and figure out what it is new they can get. So they might delay them a little bit. And the one fella even suggested that if there's enough difference in what you know, temperature and climate, environment, etc., for what's available, that it could throw them off substantially in terms of, I don't know, I guess jet lag for bees. I don't know. That's kind of the way they describe it, but you know, I mean, that's just one thing that I've seen pop up in relation to ship to that you know, and so if queens, I don't know. That's an interesting kind of thing.
I mean, I would think that if it's just a complete collapse or something, different signs. But I mean, based on what you just said, that would throw the complete curve in regards to transporting bees out to California to pollinate on almonds. I mean, that's something that we put these bees on, and
yeah, but
I mean,
you got to consider most of the guys that go out there. Most of the guys that take bees out there will go weeks ahead, and basically they'll move into a waiting or a holding yard like a week to 2 weeks before that to try to get the bees to acclimate, I guess, while they're waiting to get into the fields and go through the inspections in California and all that. So, like I said, this is just something I read and had conversations with guys who are actually there about when they do creating nukes and all of that. So it was just, I don't know. Bee jet lag. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, I'm not arguing with it.
You know what? I'm going to get Clarence Collison to come on the show and explain that, and he can maybe explain it to you because it was partly his idea.
And make sure that and tell him to do his homework on the NICOT system too.
I'm so hungry. I'm just starving.
Debbie.
That was completely random.
Yeah, that's how my brain works. Sorry. I'm just starving.
Squirrel.
Hey, Schawee. Speaking of hungry.
I'm hungry.
She's hungry. Debbie's hungry. We need to send her something up from down where you're at. But also, what experience do you have with moving queens and colonies from one area to another where they may or may not succeed as well?
I don't think I have that problem. I mean, it might take them, like if I move them from my mating yard at my house and move them to the camp in the swamps and stuff like that, it might take them a day to get situated and stuff, but I don't see a big difference in it.
What about the queens you sell? When you sell them a long distance, do people report any problems there?
No problem whatsoever.
So it's just Yappy.
I mean, when I sell the queens and sell them up, I mean, their hives already established.
Right.
Moving the bees. The queen, it takes a little while for the queen to adjust to her hive when you put her in and stuff and they release her. But once she gets geared up to it, I don't see no difference in it.
Great.
Well, here, I'm going to throw this. Do you mind, Tony, if I change curveballs and change direction? I got a good question for our distinguished guest.
Yes, please do. Please.
All right. So I understand you are a state apiary inspector, correct?
That's right.
Okay. When last year, the federal government decided to put bigger regulations on a product called terramycin, which I don't know if you guys recommended that, but the state of Alabama would recommend terramycin to treat European foul brood. Is that something you guys went along also?
Well, yeah, we have to follow those FDA guidelines, and unfortunately, they're a giant pain in the butt. It just doesn't make any sense if I can talk freely and openly, which I probably do a little bit too much.
No, fine here, bud.
Yeah, I'm here to in this position. I'm also a beekeeper. I got 135, 140 hives of my own. So I'm in the game. I've got personal stakes in this too. I'm not just out there to criticize other people's beekeeping. I don't know what the future is. If we take the lion's share of our industry, all of our larger beekeepers, almost all of them anyway, have been prophylactically treating with terramycin or Tylen for years, years and years. And if we take all these colonies that have been medicated routinely, spring and fall, properly but prophylactically, and take them off medication, I don't know what happens with that. When combs have been under antibiotic coverage, you're not going to see any signs of bacterial disease, European foul brood, American foul brood. You remove that, and I don't know if things pop up. Is there some latent infections that are in there just kind of under the scenes? that are going to become active once, the antibiotics wear off and aren't reapplied. On a smaller scale, people like Tony, you do a lot of cutouts. You can get great bees out of those, but sometimes you got those old combs in these building walls or trees, old dark combs. What kind of stuff are you bringing into your hives? And now if these antibiotics aren't as available as what they used to be, and the rules for use have changed, I don't know what the future brings. And so, I feel like we've got some of the foul brood infections pretty well tamped down. Varroa is our biggest issue. Probably no one on here is going to argue with that. By far, mites kill more hives than American foul brood, European foul brood, chalk brood, nosema, all of the other stuff that we know to look for.
Although I would say that small head beetles up there.
Yeah, beetles are coming in Iowa. We've had a big year for those the last 2 years as well. I still don't see them crashing colonies unless there's a pre-existing problem, but it's just another thorn in our sides that we have to deal with. But all this to say, this is a lot of rambling, but I'm with you. I think the FDA, I think, made these widespread sort of broad scale antibiotic rule changes, and beekeepers kind of just got caught in the mix. I don't think that we were well considered. It's kind of, they call it an oversight, and I feel like it's an oversight by a different definition than that. It is definitely an FDA oversight. It doesn't make any sense to me to pay a veterinarian that's never looked inside a beehive.
Exactly.
Approval.
Why can't they give that right to beekeep inspectors like y'all? Well,
I think. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't really know an answer other than just the routine sort of standard is that veterinarian degree is a very important document. Same as doctors and prescriptions for people, State inspectors on any level anywhere are not qualified to be a part of this system anymore.
You could be considered a consultant too. I would think that a veterinarian would want to have a beekeeping expert. I don't even know if I'm speaking out of turn here or speaking out of line. But that's my thought. I mean, like you said, veterinarians don't have, unless they're beekeepers, they don't have any experience in keeping bees, because bees are insects and they went to school to study mammals, cats, dogs, birds.
You have to understand, this is the federal government. That's not how, they know better.
They always know better. Just ask them; they'll tell you.
There might be something to that logic. I hate to say it, but there you might be right. So, and look, antibiotics have been overused. I mean, I'm not arguing with that. I think a lot of people are routinely treating their hives with terramycin or Tylenol, again, spring and fall, every year, and they've never had an issue. And their combs are good and clean and young and yellow, not old greasy dark combs. And if you're in isolation, there's a lot of people that really have no reason or benefit from using the antibiotics. And so maybe we should try to limit that. But the way that we've gone about this rule change, it defies logic, sadly.
Well, the thing came up, and I spoke with my state inspector today, because when all this jumping up, everybody got into the whole, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And everybody started, and I'm sure which you brought it up. Okay, so now I got to go to a vet who knows nothing about bees and tell them that I need this. And, there's always, if you've got a good relationship with your vet to start with, then they know you, so things are okay. But point being is, I called Wes and I said, okay, hypothetical. You came out to my house, you inspected, you found that one of my hives got European foul brood. Where do we go from there? He said, well, I'll actually give you an inspection form that, basically has state information on it so that it's all official. And you take that to your vet, and then you ask them to write you out a prescription for or get your to do. He said, but the problem is that vet is going to want to come out and have to look to confirm you have beehives. And I went, okay. So this has obviously popped up somewhere in his experience that a vet said, well, I have to come out to your house and look, which I thought was kind of a joke, because I turned around and told him, said, listen, if they don't take this form as being official. Coming out to just look at my hives is not going to do anything. And I told him, I said, which is fine with me. If my vet wants to come out, they're more than welcome to look at it, but I ain't paying them to do it when I've got proof in the pudding. Anyway. But I come up with this thought process, and I said, well, here's what I'm going to do. The vet has to write the prescription technically. So I take my form from the inspector. I go to the vet to get the prescription. Once you get a prescription, you can order some of these things online. But you have to, I went to Amazon and started looking it up. Well, I found, you got the Thailands. There's actually another, it's not terramycin, it's ortho something.
Oxytetracycline, probably.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It falls under, and I'm looking at it right now, terramycin-343, which is oxytetracycline HCl soluble powder. All right. Well, if you look at it, it strictly says right under there that the product is available by prescription only. So I'm going to test this theory and go through the process of which I'm going to get the inspection, get the thing, see if my vet will give me a prescription, and then see what the process is on ordering it to see if it could be obtained through those steps. All that to bring up was I was curious as to what you guys are doing in Iowa. If you found foul brood in a hive today, where do you go from there? Where does your beekeepers go from there?
That's a really good question. Yeah, because we're kind of talking about a couple different things here. We've got two different main bacterial infections. You've got rules that cover American foul brood, which are separate and different from those which cover European foul brood. So we've got two different types of bacteria. With American foul brood, that's a spore-forming bacteria, and that's where our scale, that's one of the signs of American foul brood infection. It's affecting later stage bees than European foul brood. They're under the capping, so you get those spotty brood pattern with sunken cappings, maybe holes chewed in them. If you stick a little twig or a toothpick in there, it ropes a little bit. It's mucousy. And then, if you let that go, that mucousy, disgusting sort of rancid bee larva, prepupa, kind of melts down into a scale and dries out. And then you got that hard, kind of dark brown, almost black little piece of crust in the hive. Because of that scale, the rules are different. So you can treat that American foul brood infection with antibiotics. You could go through all the proper channels and, go to your vet, and get your VFD and buy your terramycin or Tylenol and use that. And the vast majority of the symptoms of that infection will clear up, right? The bacteria is being killed by the antibiotic and things are working. But you still have that scale in your comb. And that scale, as soon as the antibiotic protection or coverage wears off, is still viable. And then those bees, which aren't protected under the antibiotics anymore because time has passed, now are susceptible to it again, and the infection blooms right back up. So here in Iowa, we have old rules on the books that basically say, an advanced infection is probably going to have to be destroyed. So we do a little bit of burning and burying. Again, years ago when these were more common problems, I think it was a lot more common to run into infections and have to deal with it, which equates to destruction of equipment. Other states, I don't know, North Carolina maybe, have irradiation facilities in some different ways. Do you have that in your state?
Yeah, North Carolina does.
I thought so. That's great. Makes it probably kind of tricky to be an inspector because you'd still see the scale in the combs, I would guess, but of course it'd be non-viable. That'd be kind of freaky almost to see American foul brood scale in your combs and know that it's okay if it's there. It's not going to hurt anything. With me, I see that and it's like, oh no. Here we go. It's a bad day for everyone involved. But anyway, with European foul brood, which is something that we're seeing a lot of, actually. If you go back, I've been on this job for 9 years, so not a lot of history, but enough where I can make some comparisons. It was such a background disease. We hardly saw any European foul brood. In these last few years, we've been seeing it increasing and increasing. I have a couple theories as to why that's happening, but the reality is it's becoming kind of a concern for a lot of beekeepers. And so European foul brood, different bacteria than American foul brood, does not form the spores and doesn't result in scale. And so you really can treat that with antibiotics. Tylenol is not registered or labeled for it, but terramycin sure is. So you can give that a couple full rounds of terramycin and actually lick that one and walk away from it, and you know the infection's gone. So again, it's all about identifying the signs early, recognizing that you have an infection, which means get in your hives and make sure that things are looking good in there and ask questions if you're seeing something that's screwy. And then getting that antibiotic as quickly as you can, maybe doing a break in the brood as well to help the bees clean that stuff up, maybe replace a queen. And then you really can turn your back on European foul brood, but it takes a little work. It's probably more rambling than what you were looking for.
No, that's a lot of good information, actually.
Yeah, it is.
One of the things I've had to deal with, because in my line of business, what I do around here is with the whole advent of having to have, the veterinarians involved, is I've had veterinarians approach me because they're like, I don't know anything about bees. I don't want anything to do with bees. And yet here I'm being put in this position because they've got a call from a beekeeper, and it's like, I don't know. Some of them just really didn't even know it at the time. They were caught kind of behind what do you mean I got to do this, So I talked to a few of them, and I've had to do some training sessions just to kind of help them understand, it's kind of like a beekeeping class of, okay, these are the kind of things you're going to look for. These are the kind of things that are happening. This is what, and so I've had to do some training sessions with some local veterinarians who've been getting calls. And then half of that is because one of the stipulations of the rules is that it's either got to be an actual prescription or part of a VFD, veterinary feed directive. Well, your local, dog and cat, veterinarians don't do those because there's there's a lot of paperwork involved and there's not a huge need for it or on the scale. Whereas your more rural veterinarians that deal with, livestock, et cetera, they're going to have more to do with that. And so, there's just been a whole lot of, the information was, the rules were put out there, but education never really happened properly, I think. And so there's still a bit of upheaval in that side of the industry where people are calling to get this help take because they've been told they have to, and yet they're running into people who don't know how to deal with it, and I think that's going to be a big part of going forward is that where I'm kind of like with Debbie in that I'm trying to get people to promote the idea of veterinarians don't want to go be beekeepers. They don't want to do bee inspections. But if they can contract with an agent or work with a local state inspection, group for states that not like Nebraska doesn't have that, but Iowa does. So to be somebody like you there, but say somebody like me here where we can go out and do an inspection that, somehow met a certified need or result for what they're looking for and could hand that over and kind of like an x-ray technician does the actual x-ray and circles and highlights everything that the doctors are looking for. And then the doctor just gets up and looks at, okay, this is the thing. These are the things I asked them to look for. And they're, here's the results of that. And based on that, they can then do a prescription or not, or make a certain kind of diagnosis in terms of being able to make a prescription or something. I think if we had the opportunity for that middle ground there, that person, like Debbie was saying, to be able to go out there and act as a intermediate, I think that would help things a whole lot just because the way this was carried out. That's just my opinion.
Well, the thing, I when they came out with it, if you think you have problems, you would go, but I don't think they just would write a prescription out without either getting involved in stuff like that.
Well, that's their concern. They don't want to get involved.
Involved in it. Their time is worth money like everybody else's time. So
yeah.
I don't.
But they don't want to mess with bees. That's the ones that's been talking to me. They're like, hey, I'm here to work. Like Debbie said, they're here to work with dogs and cats and parakeets, not bees.
Right. Now, if the state inspector writes out a deal that you have problems, you need this, and you go to them and they write a prescription based on the inspector's outcome, well, I don't see a problem with that. But, that's just like going to your doctor and say, well, look, I got this. I need a prescription for that. Well, he won't just write it out. He's going to have to check you. And then when he checks you, he charges you, you know. So I don't, the deal on that.
Yeah, these are all good thoughts. And, you know, there's other ways. Everybody kind of has a different relationship with their bee inspectors. In Iowa, I'm pretty fortunate. You know, there's a lot of support for the program. You go into other states and, man, they just absolutely, I think the right word is hate the idea of having a bee inspector. So it really varies by state. You know, we don't charge for any of our apiary inspections. I feel like we're pretty easy to get along with. There's myself, and then there's 3 other regional kind of seasonal bee inspectors that go out every year. We're not out there to cause fights or to be overly. In Iowa, the education has always been kind of the forefront of the apiary inspection program. And, you know, yeah, there is a regulatory element to this. You know, foul brood could very well equal destruction of equipment. But at the same time, it doesn't make any sense for you to resist that as a beekeeper. You know, you want to turn your back on the infection. You want to make sure it's gone. I don't understand why you'd want to keep scale and you know, nasty infected frames of comb around in your apiary either. So anyway, it works pretty good around here. There are other ways for people that have more uneasy relationship with bee inspection programs, or in other states that don't have an active program. You can get a couple, they call them dipstick test kits. Have you seen these in Man Lake catalogs? I think Daydamp might sell them. Kelly's does, where you can just basically do a field test for this and get a kind of like a pregnancy test. You get a result pretty quickly. That's a pretty positive confirmation right there. We also have the USDA Beltsville lab. I love to complain about the federal government, but then at the same time, I have to call myself, you know, on that, because I do love the guys down there in Beltsville. That's a great crew. Our bee labs are wonderful. They're full of good intentioned, great people. In Beltsville, if you send them a sample, all you're paying for is postage. And, you know, you imagine a lab that's getting samples of all sorts of bee issues coming at them from all over the country. Their turnaround time's pretty quick, so I'll give them full credit on that too. So that's another free service other than postage from your government. So there are ways to identify these diseases with some pretty good certainty, and then act accordingly.
Cool. Do you think that maybe, not trying to plug the FDA and actually give them some kudos or anything, but do you think that maybe if antibiotics are harder to get, do you think that it might be that the beekeepers may decide to go the other route and search more for a cause than a cure? Or actually find a cause to create the cure?
Find a cause.
Kind of
like,
to justify the regulation is some kind of thing?
Well, no. Maybe. But
going out looking for problems.
I have a soapbox, but I don't want to go. No,
You're so hungry, Debbie.
She's so hungry. She's distracted.
No, okay. Here's my deal.
Sit back.
Human health. So many people run for medications to try to fix their problems that could be environmental or physical, like what we eat or where we are could be causing our problems. Mostly what we eat. Same way with bees. It could be environmental. It could be feeding them. It could be what we're feeding them. Do you get it?
Yeah.
I think so. We're just too quick to jump to antibiotic protection when maybe a little bit more beekeeping effort and management would be what's best. Like for European foul brood, instead of jumping right to terramycin, maybe you would advocate, you know, getting rid of infected combs, requeening, break-in brood so that the older bees can clean it up without introducing the infection to just the appropriate size new larvae. That sort of physical sort of control.
Do they see a common denominator in European foul brood, like things that are going on?
The seasonal conditions and
things
stresses.
Yeah, things,
Okay.
a common denominator in the actual disease.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I'm following you now. I'm sorry for the confusion there. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we see it kind of peak at certain times of year. We see it when the hives are stressed. You know, I saw a lot of infection pop up this spring, and I think it was a combination of, you know, really good, smooth sailing weather, warm temperatures, lots of nectar coming in, lots of pollen coming in, happy beehives, if that makes sense. And then, you know, you come to that stage where you can get queens or start making your own, and you split those. And so right around the time here in central Iowa, where a whole bunch of us split our colonies hard for spring, and we had all these 2 and 3 frame nukes everywhere trying to get new queens accepted into them, the weather got rainy and cool. And, you know, that's weather, and it's hard to blame a bacterial infection on rain, but it's that kind of holistic, I think, approach to it that you're describing, where, you know, you have to look at all of the factors: temperature, you know, availability of forage, you know, nutrition. Look at the influence of nutrition on bee health. You know, all of these factors, especially when our hives are split down into these, you know, kind of delicate little nukes, you know, little babies basically, and then we hit stresses and it just kind of throws the hive for a loop, and that's when you see a lot of infections pop up.
Yep.
I think there is kind of a big picture, and you know, we just have to manage everything we can, especially since antibiotics are a little harder to get our hands on now.
Well, and then with the nukes, what are people actually doing with those nukes? They're feeding them too. And I mean, I've heard, you know, feed, and protein patties and sugar water, and none of that's natural for the bees.
Right. We're just trying to kind of put Band-Aids on whenever nature or our management fails the bees. That's when you have to step in with these kind of admittedly artificial kind of boosts. But, you know, I'm just here. I want to see healthy bees. I want my bees to be healthy, and I love nothing better than going out to different yards and seeing success, seeing super stacked tall, seeing bees that have good brood patterns, seeing bees here in a couple months here that are going into winter really fat and happy and full of honey. That's what I like to see. And, you know, if that takes a little artificial feeding, you know, in my mind, so be it. I like bees that make it through winter and are vigorous and healthy and can be split the following year. And all of that's so much better than bees that were kept without artificial feeding and supplementation that then die in the winter and have to be replaced.
Right.
That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah.
You know, in Iowa, you know, you're in North Carolina, you probably have things maybe a little different than we do. Or over in the Council Bluffs area, you guys have some terrain and some unfarmed places, but I'm in central Iowa. And, you know, if we're going to rely on nature, this is kind of another soapbox to handle our bees. We need to put nature back because we took it away. You know, we've got less than 0.1% of our natural, you know, prairie history here in Iowa. We've got 30 million acres of corn and beans. I work for the Department of Agriculture. It's not like I'm against farming, but at the same time, I think we have to be aware that we've taken the diversity, which is bee food and pasture and nutrition, right out of the environment that we're putting our bees in. And to expect the bees to do well in that environment, the more we, you know, kind of make weed control into an art form and keep the roadsides all mowed down and flowerless, you know, we're expecting a lot from a very, very little. So it just seems like we see this kind of bottleneck happening for our bees where when things are good, it's very good midsummer, but then we've got kind of early spring and later fall where there just isn't a whole lot out there for them. And, you know, if nature's not there for them, I'm all about coming in with sugar syrup or corn syrup and pollen patties and at least giving them something.
On that note, we've got this tree around here, but it mostly grows up in the western part of North Carolina called sourwood. And I've been in desperate search of it ever since I learned how to recognize it and identify it. And I've been looking for it in our area because it does grow here. Well, I just found some. And there is one lone tree, small tree growing up in the middle of it's probably 50 acres that was just cleared. So saying that, they probably cleared out a ton of sourwood that was in that wooded area. Oh. And now it kind of makes me sad because it's like less than a mile from my house. So, yeah. So I'm going to go looking for saplings. in a little
Sounds
while.
Like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
we love those weeds and those
week.
scrub trees and everything that your average sane person would want to clear off their land is what we want. that's
yeah,
food.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to be the Johnny Appleseed of sourwood in my area.
There you go. That's one way to address it. I always like to promote IPM, Integrated Pest Management, because to me that's what we're talking about, is minimizing the need of artificial or toxic pesticides, or, if you focus on the early part more and take non-toxic, non-violent, non-aggressive steps with your hives or your growing or whatever, the better chance you're going to have to avoid or prevent getting to the point where you have to put stuff like that we don't really want to put. But you got to have that built into your plan from the beginning. You have that set up before you start. That way, you're not standing around when you see it and you're going, oh, now what? You see it and you're like, oh yeah, well, I knew if I saw this is what we were going to do. And you can act and deal with it. Boom. But that's just my opinion on that. But
smart.
Yeah. You just got to try to take one step at a time. We had to let Yappy step out for a minute. He, being the firefighter guy that he is, he got a little bit of a call. So it's for those who think it's odd that Yappy's been so quiet, it's because he's not here. But that's okay. One of the things that I remember, Andy, when we were talking about you coming on the podcast, is because you are getting all ready to go for the Iowa State Fair.
That's right. It's coming. It starts on Thursday, technically, but for our apiary exhibits, the big day is Wednesday. That's the judging. Everything gets judged that day before the fair, and then, nicely displayed and organized, and then the gates open and everybody can see, who got the blue ribbon honey, who brought the best frame of comb, that sort of thing. So it's our busy time. I spent just about a full day there on Sunday. I was kind of back and forth doing fair stuff yesterday, and I'm going there right after we hang up here. So it's on.
Well, now it makes me think, because
I do love it. It's a change up.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, because you get to see the end results of a lot of this that a lot of people don't get to see. You get to see it in different ways, than you do on the media, the TV, I've gone to the Iowa State Fair and seen the big booth, and displays that they have over there. And it's always really cool and neat. We've had some different, over the past years, some interesting, booths and setups, say at the Nebraska State Fair. Even at the county levels, you get some interesting tables and booths. One of the coolest things that I've seen that I really like when I go to a state fair at the bee, because I always got to stop at the bee table, the bee booth, whatever. And it's because there's this caged in room, so to speak, where it takes a lot of work to make these, but it's like they put a full hive in the middle of the screen room. And then you got beekeepers who can go in there and they're able to open the hive right there. You're surrounded by the state fair and all these people, but because it's this totally screened in room, people can watch as you go through and pull frames out. And to me, that has just got to be one of the coolest things ever. Anytime I get to see that happen, it doesn't happen always, because there's a lot of work that has to go into putting that together and making sure that it actually stays sealed and all that. But man, every time I see somebody that has one of those set up, that's my thing. I love seeing that. What is
cool.
your favorite things, cool. People?
I probably talk too much. I'll sit back and listen here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They're just kind of like I took them by surprise. Debbie, what's your favorite thing when you see bee displays at fairs?
I don't go to fairs, and I never have seen another bee display. I don't fairs. I don't like rides and stuff, so I go see rodeos.
See, think of it as a bee rodeo at the state fair.
I've only been in love with bees for a little less than 3 years, so.
Dude, you have got to go to a local state fair just to see the bee displays, because most of your state associations will have a booth or a display there, and most of them try to make it a pretty outgoing kind of I think most of them. Some of them are pretty dull, I'll be honest, but some, I will do that for you. But the Iowa State Fair has always got an awesome bees display. I got to give them credit where it's due. That's one of the only reasons I've ever gone, because otherwise I'm like you. I don't do the rides and all of that. That is nothing for me. But you tell me there's going to be some really cool bee stuff there. I'm there. I'm sold.
But our zoo, I did recently go to our zoo, and the North Carolina Zoo has a really good bee display that's it's a solid thing there all the time, and funded and supported by the North Carolina Beekeepers Association.
Cool. What about down there in Louisiana, Schawee? You guys got anything like that?
Well, I'm like Debbie. I don't go to the fairs, but
you are the president of the group. You should be starting that. I'm disappointed, Schawee.
My daughter was born today, and that was 33 years ago.
See, it's time to go back. They've been missing you.
At the zoo, they have pollinator week and different things, and we, with the New Orleans Beekeepers Association, we have a observation hive and stuff, and we've set it up and interact with the people at the zoo and stuff, and that's a blast. I have a good time at that, And I'm sure if they had that at the state fair, I'm gonna have to check into it and see. I guess I'm gonna have to start going to it if they do have it.
But people in the river end, we make them do something nice. Make them get cool about it.
Rather the zoo, though, I have more fun at the zoo. I like the animals. The four-legged kind.
Yes, but you're not supposed to trap them.
Well,
I'm looking through the North Carolina State Fair website now, and I don't see anything about bees. So, I know. Not yet. I'm looking.
Andy.
Yes.
You got it. If you don't get it, I'm sure you don't get a whole lot of chance to do a lot of YouTube stuff. And I'm not the world's biggest proponent of YouTube and all that. However, get online sometime on YouTube and find Schawee, Schawee. Look for Shawee's videos. He's got these things where he's out there wrestling and beating up alligators right next to beehives. I mean,
oh my God.
I love his videos because it's like he just brings us a whole new world of bees and alligators.
Wow, that's wild. I'll definitely check that out.
Okay, so I did find the competitions listings. The North Carolina State Fair has bees and honey competition.
Good.
Yep. That's it.
And they should see that. You need to go down there and tell them to get it in gear. You're a beehooligan.
Well, I'll just I'll enter some of my honey in it.
You just go down and start something. Forget the rules. You make new rules happen. You are a beehooligan, my friend. Don't worry about what's already there. You make it happen.
You get a out of jail free card, so you can do anything you want.
All right.
Is that right?
I won't go that far, but
yeah. It probably really does vary by state, but ours, gosh, we've got, the Iowa Honey Producers Association has been around for over 100 years, and it's just become this thing that's gone on for decades and decades, the presence at the state fair. We have an agricultural building. We got the big butter cow. That's a big attraction for everybody. Get a picture of the butter cow, got to come walk by it. And if you look straight up from that butter cow on the second floor, that's where our bee booth is. So, we have the honey producers there with quite a bit of floor space, really, for the fair. It's at a premium, and they've got a lot of space. We sell honey lemonade through the association, and that honey lemonade is by far our biggest fundraiser of the year. Just thousands and thousands of glasses of that stuff go. And so we sell honey lemonade. We sell honey. 1 pound jars of honey are brought to the fair by producers all over the state, so that wherever fairgoers are coming from in the state of Iowa, there's probably a beekeeper represented from at least their general region. So that's kind of a cool thing, is that you're not just buying honey at the bee booth, but you're down here in Des Moines say you're from Lamar's, Iowa, there's probably somebody that's from, Sioux Center, Lamar, somewhere up in that quadrant of the state. So kind of neat that you can find regional products highlighted. We sell a lot of creamed honey. We sell a lot of candles, all kinds of stuff there. Anything bee related gets sold up there. So it's really good for our state association. And then there's kind of a line drawn on the floor past the sales booth, and that's where our contest starts. So, I got to give all the credit to the sales booth stuff to the Honey Producers Association. There's really three people, Connie Bronnenberg, Spring Valley Honey Farms out of Perry, Heidi Love, related right there. And then Rhonda Heston out of Sheridan, Iowa. She's our treasurer for our group. They live there. The amount of work that these three people do is just incredible to make all that happen. And then there's me down on the other side with all the competition. So we start with observation hives, beehives behind glass. We go through all the different colors and categories of honey. We've got, round, Ross rounds represented. We've got cut comb, square, clamshell boxes represented. All kinds of bee art and photography. Frames of honey. We've got gift baskets made with bee products as kind of a marketing thing. The list just goes on all sorts of beeswax goods. I find it absolutely fascinating. I mean, surely it's not for everybody, but it is kind of a point of pride. I love seeing such really good, high quality stuff brought in there.
When
creamed honey.
How long is the state fair going on? Because I'm leaving town Wednesday night. And I think I'd like to see that because, like everyone else, I haven't been to, like Schawee and Debbie. I don't go to fairs, so being a first-year guy, kind of be interesting to see.
It's a 2-week run, isn't it, Antnee? Or Andy?
Just about, yeah. So we start on Thursday, here in just a couple days, and then it goes through the weekend and then the whole following week. So we end on Sunday. What is that? The 20th or 21st? So, yeah, it's a full, 11 days of a fair.
Okay, cool. So, I'll be back by then.
Yeah, check it out. Hey. The weather's good. Sometimes it's just ridiculously hot. If I got to say one downside thing about the fair, you just walk around complete. If you're me, I'm, probably weigh a few more pounds than I should. Got a big beard, dark haired, and I just
totally didn't picture you like that.
So you just walk around completely drenched with sweat sometimes. But this year, temperatures are good. We're upstairs in an unair conditioned building. I'm looking forward to a real good fair. That affects attendance. If it's too hot and miserable, I don't want to be there. Nobody else wants to be there. So, this year just looks like it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, well, send everybody to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Hey, you got that jar of honey, like while Andy was talking?
Yeah.
You started your creamed honey process?
Yep. It looks to be like it. How long does it take? Does it take? Did I hear somebody say it takes about 2 weeks to process it?
9 years.
No. No. Like I started this, I think right after didn't I say I started it right after we talked last week?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's thickening up pretty good. So I don't know. I took it out of the fridge. I'm hoping that's okay.
What'd you use for a starter?
I used Ephraim Nito's.
Oh, that's right.
Honey from New Mexico. Because within 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of him sending it to me, it was solid in the jar, in his little honey bear that he sent me. So, and it's spreadable. It's kind of like, it's getting kind of thick now, but can you see coming out? But it's like spreadable.
Soft margarine kind of a.
Yeah. It's
Oh, sure. She's going to down the whole bottle while we're watching.
Mess is good.
Tease, really? Yeah. Show that. Yeah. Good job.
Andy, I'm sorry you had to see that, good. Buddy. She's just going to ruin it for all of us.
I told you I was hungry.
We need to get you a Snickers. You're not you when you're
hungry,
guess
Debbie.
I'm honey flavored Snickers.
He says this is just a wildflower blend of his stuff, and it actually has like a floral taste to it. What are you making faces for?
Him and his honey Snickers.
Honey flavored Snickers bar. I think it'd be worth trying.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably try it, but it doesn't sound
instead
good.
of the caramel.
I don't know.
So wait, Andy, what's the recipe for the honey lemonade? You gonna give that out?
We do. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, honestly. They use sun-kissed lemon concentrate. It's actually the pure stuff. And then I couldn't tell you the ratio with Iowa honey is very important. And then good water. But we do publish that. If anyone would want that information, you can go to iowahoneyproducers.org. That's our association's website. And it's on there. It's not top secret or anything like that. We want people to get addicted on it and then come to the state fair and still want it.
But see, it won't work if you don't use Iowa honey. Then it's just not
That's
really.
the key.
Yeah, it's not. It's not really honey lemonade. It's just kind of honey lemonade.
I wonder if North Carolina says that I can put my honey in the competition if it's produced here in North Carolina. Well, I wonder if I put my creamed honey in there where it had a starter from New Mexico, if that would disqualify me.
Probably would. Nah, I'm just kidding.
You're a hooligan.
Forget the rules. Make up your own rules. Hey, but Andy, that's a good question. Since you're involved with the judging and contest side, do you have an opinion on that?
I think that would be fine over here in Iowa. Again, you'd probably want to run it by the judge, but I don't think they're going to be that nitpicky. As long as the honey is your own, a little bit of a dilution with a starter from out of state, I don't think it's that big of a deal. That's really common to use. I mean, I know a lot of people that use Sous Bee creamed honey as their starter, about 1 pound every 10 or 12 pounds, because it's such a smooth kind of basic creamed honey. You're not really introducing any extra flavor or anything. It's just very, very fine texture. It's really a good crystal to it. And then you use that as your starter. So I guess, again, Sous Bee, that's probably technically sort of Iowa honey in theory. But it comes in this Sous Bee from everywhere, of course. So, that's a good one.
China, Pakistan.
Actually, you Nebraska people might know our judge. Do you guys know Jenny Morgul, or Jenny Mitchell is her married name? She's really good. We've also had Warren Nelson over the years, also from Nebraska. So, we've got some great judges from over in your state. Now, Jenny's in Iowa right now. She lives in Ames, just north of Des Moines, where Iowa State is. She runs the insects there through the entomology department. Cool. But she was in Marion Ellis's lab over there in Lincoln. So, real good history there. She's great at what she does.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I can't say that I'm too familiar with her name, but I know Warren. Warren's been active and involved in stuff like that around here, forever. So he's been around doing this kind of stuff too for quite a while.
Yeah. I like working with him. He's a great guy, and he's awesome because you can tell he enjoys it. He comes dressed for it and everything. He has this little bee beanie. And man, he puts that on, he gets in the spirit. That's
He's very passionate about his beekeeping. Yes, he is. It's the enthusiasm. I mean, you can't not catch it from him. You spend 10 minutes around him, and pretty soon you're all jazzed up too. That's the way I think. All right, guys. Wow, talk about time flying. We're past an hour. This is our longest one ever. So, but it's because we had a lot of fun. We had an excellent guest, Andy. I want to thank you for being a part of this.
My pleasure.
That was good nice. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me on. It's awesome.
Yeah, Andy, I'm sorry I got your name wrong. I'm terrible that way. Yeah, I kind of remembered it as Eric, so sorry.
She'll call you anything under the sun when she's hungry.
Because I'm a Beehooligan.
Right. Hooliganize it. Go ahead. Hooliganize.
Whatever I want. Your name will be Eric from now on.
Uh-oh. Eric the Beehooligan. And Schawee, I want to tell you thanks for making it in, brother. I appreciate after what you've been dealing with that you managed to pop in and keep up with us a little bit. It's always fun when you're around. Yappy, like I said, he never did get to make it back. He's out rescuing people, and that's what Yappy does. So, once again, Andy Joseph, Iowa State Bee Inspector, was our guest today and kicked butt and took names, and that's awesome. And hopefully, you never know, we might have some other activities going that I might drag you into participating in if you ever get a spare moment. Anyway,
I'd enjoy it. Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Oh, Oh, hey. All right, folks. Well, as I always say, we give our last goodbyes to everybody, and we'll call this a wrap-up. So let's see. I'm going to leave her to finish eating more honey for now until she doesn't bite our heads off. Schawee, what you got to say for your goodbye, bud?
Well, I enjoyed listening to you. What's your name? Randy, right?
Andy.
Andy.
It's Eric.
He must be hungry, too.
Hey, it took him 3 weeks to wait. No, he got my name right pretty quick.
But it enjoyed talking with you and stuff, and hope we can do this again. You know.
Sounds great. I'll have to check out your videos as well. See those alligators.
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta watch the one where he's shooting the one with this huge thing. It's like a hand cannon 2 feet away. And then it just looks at him like, what? It's awesome. Schawee just punked it out.
I set my camp up in case I get eaten. They will have proof what happened. I did do that, though.
He punks them out regular. What's up, Antnee? What you got for your goodbye, bud?
Shoot. I really appreciated Andy being here. I'm definitely gonna try to make the state fair once I get back from San Antonio. Make the Iowa State Fair. Sounds like they've got a lot of stuff going on, and since my bees are currently residing in Iowa, I think it'd be silly of me to miss out on it. So, yeah.
Cool. I'll look for you there.
All right. Okay.
All right, Debbie. What do you got?
Well, what do I got? Well, I'm going to leave here being schooled on maybe I should attend the state fair this year. So I'm going to go and check it out, check out the honey competitions and stuff. You never know. Maybe I'll put my creamed honey in there.
There you go. Cool.
And yep, and I'm going to be scouting out some sourwood trees this week. I'll let you know how that goes next week.
Well, all right, guys. Got any last parting words for us, Andy?
No. Just good luck with the bees, and appreciate the opportunity to be on here. This was fun.
No, we're having a good old
time. Thanks, Andy.
Loved having you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, just a reminder, Andy, we kind of stick around after the podcast in case you don't have time.
Unless Debbie chases of us. Anyway, people out there listening to the podcast, don't ever forget. You ready? Listen to this. Pay attention now. Be smart. Dun, dun, dun.